Welcome to the post Power of the Elements landscape, and let me tell you, man, Sprite. Don't make 30% of you guys have not smashed the elephant crap out of that subscribe button. Smash the swing, climb up the 100K ladder here. Sprite. Oh my gosh. Sprite hit harder than a lot of people really thought would be possible here. Now, the interesting thing about the Sprite takeover is it's not reflective across every single regional. It was regional, Mexico, that had like 6 Sprite and Top Cut. You had other regionals this weekend that you saw 4. There were other regionals that you saw only like 2. But it's definitely here to prove that Sprite, in terms of the overall week 1 drop, was a very, very scary deck. A lot of players definitely picked up the cards early and they went to town with it. Now, in terms of your optimal builds, you have the Adventure build, which did not see a lot of play this weekend. I saw some Nimble Beavers show up in terms of list, which was really cool. I saw some E-Tellies out here implementing with Gamma in the package, but that's just kind of that. Like, there wasn't anything really else too crazy in terms of everything. I mean, like, obviously, Swap Frog, Deep Sea Diva, a lot of the builds took to playing Owl Mirage to protect themselves from Ghost Ogre. So a lot of, very smart people out here tried to curve out the already apparent weaknesses of the deck, literally this early on. So while people are looking at Ghost Ogre as an option, depending on how Sprite players open up, you can see more of a distinct advantage window if they can deploy an Owl Mirage to basically set up via the level of protection. It comes down to being a very interesting anti-pick versus the meta, but it was a very good call for those people that chose to opt to play it. Protect yourself from Ghost Ogre. Ghost Ogre on the Gigantic Sprite is one of the best plays out here in the current format, if it can resolve. Next up here is Mathematic. Now, very initially on, I didn't think that Mathematic would go too crazy beyond, the occasional locals top, because when you're getting into a 7, 8, 9 round regional, the deck has, I would say, a couple of consistency issues, but I was actually initially proven wrong on this thought this week. That's not why I didn't make it onto the tier list last week. I used somebody else's tier list from July at the end, and I didn't include it because it wasn't already pre-built into it, so that should answer that. But I'm happy to see that Circular changed the landscape of, this deck. Holy crap, man. How many locals, every video last week that we covered decks on had a Mathematic deck in it, essentially? You come to this week, I think I saw, as of making this video, 3 to 4 Mathematic regional top 8s. Now, you gotta ask yourself going forward here, regional, depending on how big some of these regionals were, 6, 7 rounds, they can definitely do well in those. But once you start to hit the 7, 8, 9ers, for the further rounds of consistency, I do think that you start to see a little bit of a challenge there in the consistency that this deck can generate. So I am very, very happy to see that Mathematic got the chance to step up. And once again, I don't think a lot of people really know the matchup too fundamentally well. You'll always see with rogue decks like this that have existed for a while that step into a format here where players just aren't very prepared for, I guess, the crazy interactions that the deck can do. And, I mean, once again, did they play Final Sigma? Did they not play Final Sigma? So many little intricate questions in terms of their deck builds. And as you'll see through the week here, you'll see even more of these Mathematic decks starting to unfold. So not too bad. Next up, I got to talk about Rika / Sun Avalon. Now, I got grilled by a lot of people on the deck profile, or on the breakdown last week when I did the top decks. People like, Robbie, Rika is such a good deck. Okay, so here's my thing with this, all right? We understand that the Sun Avalon package is the bare backbones of a lot of things. You also got the Thurion package. Now, we can incorporate a Rika package into that, which one single duelist out of this weekend that I have on my records managed to do. But this deck is performing worse than Mathematic's on a regional level. Does that tell me that the deck initially failed? I kind of do think so. I think that, once again, when you have Tier, you have Sprite, you have all of these other big powerhouses in here, like Exosister as well, you definitely gotta take into consideration, you know, what's going on. And unfortunately, yeah, Rika will be a rogue pick for sure. Like, the Sun Avalon stuff with it, you know, the Thurion stuff. Plants just got a whole bunch of good cards, all right? Like, don't get me wrong there. But if you're one of these people like, no, Robbie, I win my regionals all the time with it, then you must be the one person that DM'd me and told me about it who's now commenting, and you're two different people? ... I don't know, man. But in terms of consistency, in terms of just the overall results for things right now, I don't think that Rika has it going for it. I'm sorry to say that. But for a local level, oh yeah, 100%. I will say this about Rika. I think for a top 32 approach to things, you can definitely get your invite with this. So don't be discouraged when I say that, all right? A lot of decent hope there. Next up is Tier Elements. Robbie, where's Tier Elements? What? They're supposed to be one of the better decks. Yeah, Tier was here. Tier ended up merging, I think for the better part of what I've seen. A majority of the Tier decks merged with Despia. Now, what's interesting about this was a lot of people swore by that this build was too slow. And I don't think that that's necessarily the case. It was by far the dominant build in terms of numbers out of the weekend. The one build I really liked for Tier Element was the Danger build. We initially saw like all of the cool little things that spun through, you know, the format, got the chance to showcase that. What was it? Last format, or excuse me, when we did the Zodiac tournament, we got to see the Danger build, and it proved some pretty cool results, man. Like, just watching some of the builds, you know, be able to trigger, oh, Danger, you know, now I can trigger my Tier in the graveyard, do a fusion summon, and let's be honest here, you know, Winda's a very good card. Like, it's going to come down to, like, some refinement and some other things here, but I definitely will say that Tier is present in the format. Like, it's definitely one of those things that you look at here and go, oh, yeah, it's a top contender for sure. Is it as powerful as Sprite? No, it's not. All right, like, the deck definitely has a little bit of issues. And by a little bit of issues, I mean, we're going to have to grind out some of these relatively interesting matchups, man. There really is like no good way to, like, I would say play the deck pre-Ishizu here just yet. But once again, these are still very early thoughts as, you know, we're unpacking weekend one here. So if you're a Tier player, keep it up. I'm sure you'll find a way out here to make things happen. Now, we'll talk about the little encompassing rest of the format here. Punk performed great. People like, Robbie, there's no way Punk is going to be as good as you say it is. Okay, looks like it performed. Looks like it didn't have as crazy representation as, you know, you would think, but top contender for sure. Absolutely. One Dragon Link showed up out of the weekend, tore through people. Sword Soul, maybe 2 to 3, if that, out of everything I've seen. Yeah, Sword Soul struggling out here. Flunder also took a pretty big backseat. You know who didn't take a backseat? Eldritch. Man, skill drain Eldritch. It might not have been a crazy, like, in terms of representation, but it was definitely out here running through players. Like, I can't tell you how many people probably looked at Eldritch this week and was like, why are you playing this? And then they got, like, left hand 2-0'd by the deck. And then you're just like, oh, huh. Oddly enough, that's kind of how it was going, ladies and gentlemen. It's your format. I know, like, oh, Robbie, you didn't talk about X deck, or you didn't talk enough in detail. Rogue performed. It didn't do as well. I think me and a lot of people were definitely hoping that the older format would hang on, you know, pre-ban list, you know, but the power scaling went from here to here. And, you know, in terms of shifts in the game, all right, I'll take it. Shout out to Mystic Mind Sky Striker. Deck is still beating. Guys, leave a comment down below. Tell me what you guys think. Make sure you guys smash the crap out of that subscribe button. See your beautiful faces back here later, guys. Peace out. Patron. Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.